Are you a CEO looking to scale your company faster and easier? Check out Thrive Roundtable. Thrive combines a moderated peer group mastermind, expert one-on-one coaching, access to proven growth tools, and a 24/7 support community. Created by Inc. award-winning CEO and certified scaling up business coach Bruce Eckfeldt, Thrive will help you grow your business more quickly and with less drama. For details on the program, visit eckfeldt.com/thrive. That's eckfeldt.com/thrive.
Hey everyone, Bruce Eckfeldt here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe and turn on notifications so we can let you know when the next video is posted. You can also check us out at eckfeldt.com for more great content. With that, let's go check out the video.
You're listening to Thinking Outside the Bud, where we speak with entrepreneurs, investors, thought leaders, researchers, advocates, and policymakers who are finding new and exciting ways for cannabis to positively impact business, society, and culture. And now, here is your host, business coach, Bruce Eckfeldt.
Welcome everyone, this is Thinking Outside the Bud. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt, I'm your host. Today I'm here with Jed Wexler. Jed, welcome to the program.
Thanks. Great to speak about this topic at this level. So I appreciate you having me.
Thanks. And just to introduce you a little bit, so to our audience, Jed is founder and director of Elevated Talks, which is a cannabis conference we're going to learn more about. We're going to talk a little bit more about the background too and what's going on there. He's also CEO and head of content strategy for his company, 818 Agency. And we're going to find out a little bit more about that and the work that they do with businesses and helping them with content marketing. So Jed, why don't we just start with background? Give us a little sense of your background and, kind of professional, and then how you got into the cannabis space. Because I'm always curious how it got in, how people got into it.
Professionally, I've always been in the publishing, digital, and event marketing space. And in 2013 in New York, I started a firm designed to help large trade shows, conferences, and events with their content and all of their digital marketing, with a focus really on what's trending at retail, mainstream retail, big retail, indie retail. It's such a huge, amazing space. Yeah. And then we had this large client who had this little baby THC smoking accessories trade show within a trade show. And we worked on that as, in a small way, doing content and strategy. And I just saw real opportunity because it was very it was just bongs and pipes. And then every now and then you'd see this beautiful booth with this beautifully merchandised. Everything was visually super modern. And I was like, these guys are really early.
Yeah. When was this? How long ago was this conference?
I think we started on that 2014. Yeah. And then kind of worked on it a little bit until 2017. And then, since I'm an editor in this retail space and trend space, we're always doing this for clients. There was something in the luxury upscale market related to cannabis, cannabidiol, apothecaries. And we all thought as a team, we need to flesh out the next great opportunity at retail, whether it's Main Street retail, luxury retail. We want to treat this as a legitimate mainstream retail product and what that means, and how, from where we sit, we wanted to tackle how do you build a prestige brand in this space, and how do you merchandise, and how do you bring all of your professional retailer tools and marketing tools into this space. So, late last year, 2017, we started planning Elevated Talks, which is really about luxury meets cannabis, whether it's wellness, beauty, design, media. And so we had really 4 visionaries in each one of those verticals. We talked about it. We had exhibition, and then essentially created this platform to give leading brands, bigger and emerging, a place to get exposed to retailers, media, and investment from private equity, family offices, things like that. So that's it in a nutshell. It's a pretty big nutshell. It was a wordy nutshell. Yeah.
It's an interesting one because I think one of the big factors or big dynamics in the cannabis industry right now is this kind of the segmentation and the multifacetedness of the new markets. It's coming out of this kind of pot culture background, and as it moves out of that into these other areas, it's very kind of multi-threaded. So I think this whole kind of luxury one is a really interesting one. Maybe let's define luxury a little bit in terms of, from a retail point of view, and particularly from a cannabis point of view. What are we talking about when we talk about the luxury?
I think, luxury, to your point about this multi-threads, we know the market is about to really go into the maturation phase because there's starting to be sub-verticals that we can kind of tackle, which is why I still think we're slightly early, but we're not. It's about to pop. So luxury today for a major brand can mean several different things, and it's all important. I think it's about being luxury minded or design forward, because luxury at the traditional end for Louis Vuittons and LVMHs, the Karl Lagerfelds, is about exclusivity, craftsmanship, being wildly expensive, and you couldn't get it anywhere else. But the definition of luxury is very much more nuanced today, where I think luxury can also mean accessibility. Tiffany's sells $20 bracelets, which is a revenue driver, and then they have $50,000 diamonds, and all the big brands are doing that, and you can have luxury is, I think, more of a point of view to how you present a product. And then also luxury, which is great for this independent market. People want things that not everybody has. Otherwise, it's a pure commodity. So yes, I need a t-shirt from H&M that costs $9.99. I can go to Uniqlo and get XYZ. That's a commodity approach. So we're kind of taking the approach of what does luxury mean for cannabis, CBD, like a point of view of looking at it. So if that clarifies,
I think it does. And I think it's important to note or to think of it as more of the mindset, because it's easy to look at it as a price point. It's easy to say, well, it's really expensive stuff.
Right.
But I think this idea of kind of exclusivity, that it's not just about expensive, but it's about sort of a limitedness. Not everyone has it, or not everyone can get it. And this idea of the mindset, and even kind of tying into a larger kind of luxury lifestyle or luxury approach to things in general.
Right, exactly. And it's also, again, not about price point. It's you want a product, especially in the THC and or CBD space, it's the product is quality. It looks and feels cared for. The design resonates with you. I mean, there's plenty of larger brands. Like one of our panelists was Andrew Getz, the founder of Malin & Getz. They have 11 stores worldwide. They just opened one in Hong Kong. I think everyone would say they're a prestige brand, but their price points are accessible. It's more of like, let's do things in this modern way. So,
and do you see, I mean, just kind of looking at how this market could possibly play out, and I think it's happened in many aspects of cannabis, which is because of the nature of cannabis, because of the legality of cannabis in different areas. This question is, are new luxury brands going to develop and emerge, or are existing luxury brands going to come into the space with cannabis products? What's your sense on that? Or
I think it's actually both.
Okay.
Like any other brands, I look at it as, from a fashion standpoint, back in the early 90s, street style and streetwear was this very marginal baby brand thing. And so you had thousands of independent brands, but only a small handful actually had the team in place, financing, product, pricing, all of the things in place to really become these larger viable brands. And then, we talk to bigger brands all the time that you have to have a plan in place as any kind of business around CBD, especially skincare, beauty, wellness, and THC, which is a little dicier because it is not fully legal. But these companies are putting plans in place for when there are no gray areas. I think it's very similar to the .com era, where these companies would just put money in a lot of places just to make sure they were covered. Yes, the bubble burst, but this is a consumer product. It's something that you can hold, use, benefit from. So, it is definitely both. And, we see like these apothecary brands like Kiehl's, or the beauty brands like Sephora, the Malin & Getz's, they're dipping their toes into products that reference cannabis. And so they're doing stuff here. And then you have the core independent brands that are looking for funding. You have a lot of baby brands. Mm-hmm. And then, I think the apothecary and the dispensary at the luxury level or the modern level, they're going to start fusing. They're going to start becoming each other, so. Let's
talk about product categories or a little bit about the product mixes, because I think that's people, you mentioned, bongs in the beginning, right? So there's these kind of paraphernalia kind of category. Yes. But we're talking about much more than that. So give us a sense of the types of things that are coming up when we talk about cannabis-based products.
Well, from our talk and our conference, the insights that we pulled out is really in the immediate CBD, beauty, skincare, and wellness products are driving the retail opportunity. I don't think that's news for a lot of people like in the business. And then there's all the ancillary non-THC, non-CBD, which are pipes, accessories, purses that can cover up any smells, but also the design is elevated. It's meant for a customer with an elevated taste level and getting away from, that stoner, hacky sack connotation, which is great. That's still a huge business. It's going to be there forever, but that's not what people who travel, people who want elegance around the products they choose. So you have all these ancillary products, and then you have the CBD, skincare, wellness products as well.
The analogy often uses like cell phone technology. 20 years ago, everyone was carrying around bricks. Now people are buying, the Vuitton case, on their iPhone.
Right. For the pipe market, there are a couple great e-commerce shops where, going back to, tech speak, it's like the UI and UX of your cannabis delivery device is important now. So I think that's where we see, that's what we've learned, the market is going. And the interesting thing is it dovetails so well. There's a whole hemp derived part of the business. And the agricultural bill recently passed, the industrial hemp bill passed. Mm-hmm. And so you have these hemp-derived products, hemp-derived fashion, and then which dovetails even bigger into sustainable eco-fashion and sustainable products that are pesticide-free. So you have, if you start with hemp and CBD and cannabis, you're tapping into what experts say is a multi-trillion-dollar health and wellness business, and then a big customer-driven, sustainable, eco, slow fashion movement, because that's what the customers are demanding. And companies as big as Hugo Boss are making vegan shoes and, animal-free products. So I don't want to get too far away from cannabis, but there's something, the hemp and cannabis, aficionados, this is a real central point, that this is a holistic product that is natural. And so there's so many spokes on this wheel that you can really, retailers can, if they plan correctly, and brands will make a lot of money doing this.
Yeah. And I think it's an important one to bring up, because I think that it's kind of a whole other thread, but it's an important one, which is, and the reason that at some level I do include hemp, in the discussion is because hemp has been caught up in the anti-cannabis laws and stuff in terms of, the history, and, is very much affected. The production of hemp is very much affected about, in terms of current legislation and laws in the books. And yes, when or as hemp becomes legal to produce and use as an industrial product, as a fabric, as a fiber, and things. And now we're really talking about all mainstream fashion.
It's lifestyle, but it's also there's hempcrete. There's building materials, and it's if you have someone who's a hemp advocate on your show, they can talk for hours about what it can do. It's like a miracle product. It doesn't need pesticides. It grows everywhere.
Well, it's an interesting one in terms of the luxury market. Like once we kind of put hemp into the mix, how the luxury market begins to use that as a product. And I think from a brand and sort of segment or lifestyle point of view, this idea of hemp not only from a sort of as a cannabis related kind of product, but really as a sustainable, eco-friendly, it ties into all these other things there, which become really fascinating, or the market becomes quite huge.
Yeah, I mean, we talk to retailers and big brands all the time, and they're starting to respond to these rising ethical tides from millennials to Gen Z to Gen X, which, I am. And there's a fashion brand that's really big called, her name is Mara Hoffman.
Okay.
And she's got like 500,000 followers on Instagram. She's one of the great fashion brands out there. And I think, you combining that with the quality of certain CBD, beauty, skincare, and all this is really, the consumer's demanding this. And media is covering, you see it every day. There's articles on two different verticals. There's like the THC business and all the private equity going into the THC business. And then there's this like CBD skincare beauty that from Vogue to Business of Fashion to Wall Street Journal to Hair Repeller to all the entire Instagram influencer sphere is talking about this. So brands have to respond. And it's our view, we're starting to meet with retailers about attending our next event. It's our view that retailers, especially the larger ones now that have the resources they need to build a CBD skincare and beauty wall and make it a category and commit to it, because these indie guys are really good at it.
Yeah.
They're very nimble. And in retail parlance, we call it lifestyle merchandising or crossover merchandising. Back in the day, a store sold fashion, greeting cards only, or desk accessories, school, grooming, and they were totally separate. Yeah. But in the last bunch of years, they've combined them all. So you can go to one cool shop and get your fashion, get your journals, get your grooming, get your gift, novelty, books. Books are a big one, games. And now this, we feel, is the next category to slot into your mix. It's like the next lifestyle category, retail. So that's what's exciting for us.
Yeah.
So
in terms of the sort of products and stuff that you've seen, I mean, what are some of the more interesting or different or innovative things that you've seen kind of in the market right now or coming to the market?
Oh God, there's so many. I think there's a couple brands that make topical creams, CBD kind of pain alleviating creams, and a brand called Lord Jones is very good at that. And tinctures, the anti-anxiety tinctures are a big one. Yeah. And on the beauty side, you have that wellness side, because CBD it's anti-inflammatory properties. You're starting to see face masks and eye treatments, and it's not necessarily lipstick per se, but every category of makeup and beauty and skin is tackling this. But I've seen like sprays that you spray into your mouth, and then I've seen canicures, which are like cannabis manicures. And there's so many ways to slice it, but I think like the creams and the topicals are what's seem really interesting, because it's kind of all ages. You have your cool influencers talking about CBD, and then you have people like our parents, like my father, who takes CBD instead of like lotions for arthritis, instead of, this is kind of a once in a 2-generation opportunity where you have every age group talking about this, from cool to mainstream to uncool. And I haven't seen this in a while, since the advent of the internet, where everybody uses it.
Yeah, it really is impacting everyone. There's someone tell me a funny way of putting it is that if there's a surface or a hole, we'll figure out how to get cannabis in it. It's kind of it's affecting everything.
Cannabis, it's almost like its own meme. It's almost like starting to parody itself a little bit. So like just put the word cannabis in front of everything, or at the end of a sentence, and then you'll get press. You'll get someone talking
blockchain.
about it.
If you put blockchain in there as well,
right? Exactly.
Blockchain. You'll go up another 200%.
Cryptocurrency, blockchain, and cannabis is kind of like what everybody's talking about, and accepting, using blockchain technology to get cannabis payments. Now people are like, fusing it all together into this kind of huge thing.
So, I mean, looking at this market, is this, do you kind of anticipate or do you see the direction going that CoverGirl and Revlon are going to be coming out with CBD makeup lines? I mean,
that is my sense on the big brand end, is like you'll see a Sephora come out with brands along these lines. Or you'll find Estee Lauder really go deep into this. And you'll see maybe a Karl Lagerfeld or Stella McCartney, these legendary designers create beautiful cases or pipes or something. Like they're getting into it because what they have, which is a lot of what most brands don't have, is they have all the distribution.
Yeah.
So all they have to do is turn on the product to make sure it's legal, and they're fine. And the legality of it in the US and then outside of in other countries is so all over the place. Like we had, Andrew Getz from Malin and Getz, when they started his cannabis candle line, they wanted to put cannabis in it. But in the US, when they started it 5 years ago, they absolutely couldn't put any cannabis in it. They could only call it cannabis, candles, parfums, and lotions, and kind of reference it in a cool way and kind of make it smell like it using other materials. But he said in Europe, when they wanted to roll out to their European stores, since it didn't have cannabis in it, they weren't allowed to call it a cannabis collection because it was misleading. Yeah. So in the US, of course, you can think anything to market any product you want. And in Europe, they're like, you have to put cannabis in it because you're misleading our customer. You can't do it. So it's like, irony. At some point, this will smooth out.
Yeah.
So, and another consumer product are these beer companies, Constellation Brands, Molson. They're partnering with THC brands, and they're starting to put CBD into their drinks. I mean, this has consumer products written all over it, and I'm just hoping that some of the good independent brands can benefit from that because they've really fought the good fight. Yeah, and also hoping that we have a lot of diverse-led businesses in the space. Yeah. So we want to take as many people with us, into what's going to be huge.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting dynamic going on in this space in terms of inclusion, both gender, racial diversity. Yeah, it's certainly a big part of the movement. So tell us a little bit about Elevated Talks and what you're doing in the space to help kind of have these conversations, get people kind of on stage into the kind of public eye. What's your goal with this and how is it working?
Yeah, I mean, we want to showcase brands that are leading the way, that are a combination of independent and these bigger brands that we're trying to bring into the CBD or cannabis space, or we may be thinking about to launch a product because you have, all this activity inside the cannabis and CBD space, but we want to expose this as a mainstream modern opportunity at the luxury end. And so I think it's really important still to create conversations around this, productive ones, because there's so many people who still think it's completely illegal. They're afraid to take it. They don't know what to do with it. So we would we're evolving the trade show conference model where we'll just focus on a handful of brands and drive all of our content and marketing opportunities around this small handful of integrous brands doing interesting things. So, these independent brands having conversations with these bigger brands, I think they have a lot to offer each other, and also partnering with larger media outlets and also some independent media outlets as well. So it's a kind of that combination where how do we create a productive conversation that drives results for everyone who participates? Yeah. Not just in a vanity way, just so we can create cool content, but really driving a specific result for each participant. So and I think that's it. Yeah.
What are the plans at this point? Are you looking to go, lots of these conferences? Is this a luxury conference itself, or how are you kind of thinking about it?
I think, now we're looking at our next venue and partners for the spring. We're considering New York again or Montreal, because there's a lot of media, modern design and brands in both. It's legal and obviously more legal in Canada. So it'd be interesting to have those conversations and then really help these retailers roll out this kind of product. So
good.
Yeah.
In terms of other things that you see going on in the industry, how are you kind of keeping up to date on the industry in general, both the sort of the legal side, the market side, the brands, things like that? Where do you go to get information?
Well, I mean, there's tons of events. And then, when you start doing these events, since it's now we have this, ostensibly you have a platform, you just start meeting with a lot of industry people, and everybody has a different point of view. I mean, I really like what Leafly does. From just pure cannabis. I love reading Broccoli magazine. Gossamer is another one. And then you have maryjane.com. Those are good for pure cannabis lifestyle. And then we focus on reading the fashion and retail publications.
Yeah. Sort of seeing how that's intersecting.
Since we're starting to make connections between these brands with certain family offices and private equity, we're keeping an eye on the activity in the markets. What people are buying, what people are not buying. So we're in constant talks with those folks.
Excellent. So if I'm an entrepreneur, either sort of in the cannabis space or thinking about getting in it, I'm looking kind of these different market segments, particularly this luxury, and what advice, what recommendations, like where would you kind of point people to when they're thinking about, product development and, developing companies around this space?
I mean, I think it really depends. That's a really good question. I think it's like any other business. It's like, what do you want to create? Do you want to create something on the hardcore THC side? Do you want to have a dispensary, and why? Or do you want to get into an exciting new retail product, which is for now is the cannabidiol CBD? And I think the regulations are very gray, so I think what I've noticed is that the best companies in the business make sure they have amazing partners in terms of formulations, on the CBD side. We're biased, but there's still so much space in the luxury high-end market. We've had meetings with luxury retailers and they're not even carrying this stuff yet. So if someone with a good product, good design, good team walks into, starts pitching them, I think they're going to land something.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. I've spoken to several different, entrepreneurs that have, amazingly successful companies. And oftentimes they say, when I ask them what's the one thing they wish they did differently, is they say grow faster. It's just because things are going so quickly that the markets are expanding so quickly that even if you're growing at, 100, 200, 300% a year, the market is expanding at 1,000% a year, and you're essentially losing market share even at that incredible growth rate. So it's a really phenomenally kind of interesting situation that we're in.
And where we sit, whether it's like prestige beauty brands or luxury brands, if you're going to start a brand, I think experiential strategy is really important. You want to do events where you let people try the product or you get feedback, or, I think it's important to be in it, and not hovering above and hoping your customer likes a certain thing. So that's why I think it's so important to create experiences and conversations around this, in a structured way. So that's the other thing I would definitely do.
And good point. I think that anything to actually interface with your market, with your customers, get them into a physical experience, is going to have a much bigger impact.
And I keep thinking about what advice would you give? I think like with anything else, like with our business or any business, you need the right team. Like even if it's one other person or two other people. I mean, Dropbox was started with 2 people. He wanted to do it himself alone, and his partners were like, no, you better get somebody. And just think about only working with the highest level, professional, dedicated, positive people you can, and get money. Self-funding is important from a habit forming standpoint, but you really need to, in order to take advantage of the market, you need to get into the marketplace and get funded.
Yeah, especially in this market.
Like to your point, I mean, the market's expanding so fast, you need to carve out that share as quickly as you can. So
great. Jed, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much. If people want to find out more about you, about 818, about Elevated Talks, what's the best way to find out more information or get a hold of you?
They can just email out the conference email, which is elevatedtalks@818agency.com. And that's the numeral 818agency.com. And that's, Elevated Talks at 818agency.com. And that's the best way to start a conversation with us. And we'll take it from there.
Excellent. And I'll make sure that email is in the show notes here so people can just click on it and get a hold of you. Thank you again for being on the show, being on the program. I enjoyed it, learned a lot, and I'll look forward to keeping in touch and
likewise
hearing how the next conference goes.
Thanks, Bruce. I appreciate it. We'll keep you posted. Thanks, Matt. See ya.
You've been listening to Thinking Outside the Bud with business coach Bruce Eckfeldt. To find a full list of podcast episodes, download the tools and worksheets, and access other great content, visit the website at thinkingoutsidethebud.com. And don't forget to sign up for the free newsletter at thinkingoutsidethebud.com/newsletter.